I think looking at him just reminds, especially the victims' families, that you knew that my child was a victim and you didn't say anything, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, as far as the football program goes, and future years, I don't think they should punish upcoming college students that are coming in to play football, or students that are there now playing, and coaches that didn't have anything to do with it.
Right. And I guess the NCAA, as you mentioned, is going to be talking about this just a couple of hours. It is in part unfair, if you ask me, that they would, put sanctions against the current football players. I mean, they didn't do any of this, and yet I can understand perhaps that the NCAA wants to make an example of them. I don't know, Janet, what do you think?
Well, I think a lot of people struggle with Joe Paterno also being a good man in many sense, but my thinking is those men and those boys that were coming to Penn State for their football program were, well off as they were. If they didn't go to Penn State, they would have gone to U of M, they would have gone to Michigan State. It's the people who had no one, had the children who only had a parent, that's why they were there. They were the people that were worse off to begin with, and now they're even obviously worse off. So he was only helping people that were already privileged. And so I just think it's sad.
Yeah. Well, we're wanting your opinion this morning on our Facebook page, and as you know, Jared went to Penn State, and it's got to be a tough day for the Penn State family.
Yeah, I'm going to be withholding my personal biases about this issue, but I do want to give you guys a lot of facts about this story. Of course, it's going to be near unprecedented sanctions today. Of course, the last time that levies like this or penalties like this were taken against a football program was back in 1987 against Southern Methodist University, and that is when the death penalty was enacted. And of course, the death penalty is the most severe sanction that's ever been taken against a football program, and that was when they canceled the entire 1987 season for Southern Methodist. And in fact, SMU did not get back to football operations until 1989 because they were just so short-staffed and they didn't have the proper resources in place for the 88 season when they were allowed to come back. So it actually became a 2-year, sans football 2 years for Southern Methodist. It's not going to be quite that severe. Based on what we're hearing, it's going to be bowl bans, it's going to be scholarship reductions, and the big one will be recruiting limits. Now that's the one that is kind of up in the air right now because they don't know exactly how they're going to come down. But that is what the initial reports are. But anyways, we do have it as our morning talker of the day. You can see it in the monitor right behind me. The interesting part about this story, usually when actions are taken against the university, the school is given 24 hours notice. And of course, we are way past that 24-hour window now. Penn State has not been given any notice up to this point based on what I'm reading about what these sanctions are, which means to me it's probably going to be pretty severe. So we're asking people on our Facebook page if they think it's fair that the current crop of Penn State staff members and players are being punished for this. And we're getting a very good conversation on our Facebook page. Dennis says yes, the institution is being punished, not the new players and staff. And then Sammy, a good counter argument to say that the institution will suffer without hurting the current students is far from correct. These kids' coaches won't get to experience a bowl game, most likely. That said, though, the NCAA has no other choice. They can't go back in time and fix this. The best they can do is take a deterrent for other programs. And I do agree with Sammy. That is kind of what they're doing here, is they are going to basically cripple the Penn State football program by doing this, and by doing that, set an example for the rest of the universities not to cover this up.
Yeah, no doubt about, though, that it is a tough day for Penn State. It's a tough week. It's a tough time for anybody involved with that program. But I think I agree with Sammy. That was right on the money.
Very intellectual way to put it, definitely.
Thank you, Jared. Well, obviously the NCAA is going to make a statement of some sort. What's sad, if they really come down on the football program hard, and they probably will, is that the people that are there now, the current coach, the current players, they didn't do any of this, and they're the ones that are going to feel the brunt of this. And in a way, that's unfair, taking nothing away from, that obviously this Jerry Sandusky has been convicted of this and deserves to be punished for what happened. So anyway.
Not too much time left, but we want to get over to Jared for a couple seconds.
Yeah, well, I think the key thing here, guys, is the unprecedented nature of these sanctions, and we've got it in our monitor as our morning talker of the day. And I've changed the headline to unprecedented because based on some reading I've done in the last hour, it's interesting to kind of see how these sanctions are going to come down. I'm going to read an excerpt off the top from an ESPN college football analyst who is very respected in his field. The NCAA is taking unprecedented measures with the decision to penalize Penn State without the due process of a committee of infractions hearing, and that is kind of the way kind of the governing body of the NCAA. They have a system in place which conducts its own investigations, issues a notice of allegations, and then allows the university 90 days to respond before a hearing is scheduled. Following the hearing, the infractions committee then usually takes about 6 weeks to issue its findings. But in this case, the NCAA appears to be using the free report, which is that government FBI investigation that was done over the last couple weeks to investigate these findings. And also an interesting note, usually the school receives 24 hours notice before any type of punitive actions are taken. There has been no 24-hour notice given to Penn State. We are just about 3 hours away now from this hearing and still no findings. So this is an unprecedented punitive sanction that will be taken against Penn State today. Probably bowl bans, probably scholarship reductions and recruiting limits as well. And of course, it's going to really take back the Penn State football program for a number of years.